Happy Sunday morning, boys and girls. It's your old pal, Andy France, the grand poobah of Judson Sunday School. Welcome back to another episode of Virtual Judson Sunday School. Do you recognize the dog in these pictures to my left, by any chance? You might. I've certainly mentioned him enough times over the years. This is my old dog, Garp. Garp was a golden retriever with just a little bit of Irish setter thrown in for an extra dose of craziness. You can see from these pictures that, his baby picture right there has a little sign on it that says New York or bust. He was born down in Alabama. And that's our look-alike contest picture right there. And then once when we went out to Montauk Beach out on Long Island. For almost 14 years, Garp was just about the best thing in my life. He was such a sweetheart. He passed away a number of years ago. And to be honest with you, I have never thought I could get another dog. I just always thought, well, Garp was just irreplaceable. That is, until now. Earlier this week, I went to my local animal rescue shelter and adopted a little mixed breed by the name of Walter. Would you like to meet him? I know he'd like to meet you. Let me call him. Walter, come here, Walter. Come on, Walter. Come on. Here you go. Here we go. Let me reach down and pick him up. He's a little shy. Kids, meet Walter. Walter, say hello to the kids of Judson Sunday School. Oh, goodness gracious, Walter. Did y'all hear that? I apologize. Wow. Anyway, like I was saying, I went to the shelter this week, not really with plans to get a new dog. I sort of just went to look. But once I laid eyes on Walter, well, I just had to have him. He simply melted my heart. Oh, goodness. Walter. Whew, that is a lot of fart for such a little dog. Walter, if you weren't so cute. Oh, goodness gracious. No, Walter. Bad dog. No farting. No farting. Anyway, like I was saying, my old dog, Garp, passed away many years ago. And when I went to the shelter and saw Walter, well, he just melted my heart. Oh, good gracious. Walter, what are they feeding you down at the shelter? That is terrible. Oh, whoa, wow. Listen, okay, time out. Andre, Michelle, what should I do? I can't even find the cameras for all the toxic gas coming out of this mutt's butt up here. It's unbelievable. I'm starting to get dizzy. Listen, here's a suggestion. You know, we've taped 2 stories for this week's episode. Andre, would you mind going ahead and just, would you mind playing the first story while I take Captain Farts a lot outside and see if we can't get some fresh air around here. Kids, I apologize if you're over here. I'm not really sure where you were. I apologize. I'm going to step away for a few minutes. While I'm gone, Andre will play our first story. Give it a listen. I think you're going to like it, okay? Thanks so much. Oh, Walter. Well, kids, we have 2 stories to read today, and if you ever want to tell people how your Sunday school classes might be different from somebody else's Sunday school classes, you need look no further than this first story. Walter the Farting Dog by William Cotswinkel and Glenn Murray, illustrated by Audrey Coleman. This book came out, I think, in 2001, and every 3 or 4 years I try and find a lesson where I can just fit this thing in. I love the story so much. If you want to know how old the story is, at one point in the book they mention a VCR. You probably don't even know what a VCR is, but a VCR is something people used to watch movies on before the DVD and Blu-ray player came along. So let's read Walter the Farting Dog. Betty and Billy brought Walter home from the dog pound. Nobody wanted him, said Billy. But we love him, said Betty. Well, he smells awful, said their mother. I think you'd better give him a bath. Mother walked in and said, "He still smells awful." And that's when they got the first clue, the telltale bubbles in the water. "He's probably just a little nervous," said Mother, hopefully. "His stomach must be upset." But Walter's stomach wasn't upset. Walter's stomach was fine. He felt perfectly normal. He just farted a lot. Kids, I don't know if you can see these pictures, but you can see the gas coming out of Walter. And there's some pictures on the wall here of faces. One face up there is holding his nose. Also, the mother is holding 2 cans of spray. One's called Fart Buster, and the other is called Fart Off, spelled P-H-A-R-T. Must be French. Anyway, he just farted a lot. He did it when he bathed. He did it when he played with Betty and Billy. He did it when he walked around the house. He did it in the dining room. He did it in the kitchen. And he did it in his sleep. "That dog farts morning, noon, and night," said Father. "He can't help it, Daddy," said Betty and Billy. They didn't mind Walter's farts. "So what if he farts?" Billy said to Betty when they were alone in their room with Walter. Betty agreed. Walter agreed too. He sat there looking innocently around, farting. "Take him to the vet," said Father. "Farting," said the vet, or rectal flatulence, as we say in the medical profession, and prescribed a change in diet. Kids, if you ever thought about becoming a vet, look at this picture. See where the gas is coming right into the veterinarian's eye. Ugh. They gave Walter every kind of dog food. He farted. They tried him on cat food. They gave him hot dogs, hamburgers, and lettuce and tomato sandwiches. They gave him fried chicken. They gave him rabbit food. They made him a vegetarian. "No matter what that dog eats, he turns it into farts," roared Father. Walter got the blame for everybody else's farts, too. If Uncle Irv let one slip, he just went and stood near Walter. Then all he had to say was, "Walter!" And everyone would look at poor Walter. There's Uncle Irv. "He has to go back to the pound," said Father. "No, Daddy, please," begged Betty and Billy. "Don't send Walter away." "He goes tomorrow," said Father. They pleaded. Walter farted. It was all over. That night, Betty and Billy cried in their beds, and Walter looked at them unhappily. "Oh, Walter," said Betty, "you've got to stop farting." "Because Father is going to send you back to the pound tomorrow," said Billy. Walter knew how serious the situation was. He'd never see Betty and Billy again. He resolved to hold in his farts forever. When Betty and Billy fell asleep, he walked down to the kitchen to see if there was anything around to eat. He managed to open the cupboard door with his nose and found the 25-pound bag of low-fart dog biscuits the vet had prescribed for him, which had made him fart more. Even though he knew they made him fart more, he couldn't resist. He ate the entire bag. "Very tasty," said Walter to himself. And then he went and lay down on the sofa. A gigantic gas bubble began to build inside him. "This is going to be trouble," he said to himself nervously. He was afraid of what might happen if he let it go. He thought maybe the house would explode. So he kept it in. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was torture. But he had resolved never to fart again. His future depended on it. As he lay there with his tail wrapped tightly between his legs, he heard a noise at the window. He watched it slowly open. A pair of burglars came through. They dropped silently into the kitchen. "Watch out for that dog," said one of the burglars. "He won't bite," said the other. "He's a wimp." Walter might have bitten them, except he was so filled with gas he couldn't move. They tied a rag around his snout so he couldn't bark. "Okay," whispered the first burglar. "Let's clear the place out." They took everything they could get their hands on. Walter wanted to stop them, but he was having unbearable gas pains. He rolled on his back and waved his paws in the air. He gnashed his teeth. "We've got it all," said the second burglar. "Let's go." That's when Walter let it fly. It was the worst fart of his life. It made a tremendous noise and shot him across the room. A hideous cloud filled the air. The burglars clutched their throats, unable to breathe. With tears in their eyes, they raced for the window. They tried to grab their bag with all the valuables in it, but their arms were too weak. "Let's get out of here." They jumped out the window and ran up the block, choking and gasping for air. Still blinded by Walter's attack, they stepped into the headlights of an approaching police car. "Hold it right there," said the policeman. When Father and Mother came down in the morning, they found the open window and they saw the bag with their valuables in it. And Walter was sitting beside it. He still had the rag tied around his snout. You'd have to say he looked heroic. "He saved the silverware," cried Mother. "He saved the VCR," cried Father. "Good dog, Walter. You're our dog, even if you do fart all the time." And so the family learned to live with Walter, the hero dog. And that's the end of our tale. There's one more picture to show you. Walter's Wonder Park, 100% natural gas powered. Walter the farting dog. Well, I'm back, boys and girls. Thank you for your patience today. I left Walter in Micah's office with a giant bowl of spicy beef jerky. I'm sure everything will be just fine. So anyway, I bet you're wondering, what in the world is today's lesson all about? To answer that question, we need look no further than our word of the day, which is fart. Wait, what? It's not fart. Who did? Michelle, did you do that? The word is not fart. Hang on. Take out this A, stick in an O. Our word of the day is comfort. Comfort is our word, which is probably the opposite of fart. What does the word comfort mean? Comfort it means to alleviate or ease someone's pain or their grief or their suffering, to lift someone's burden. Now, look, I don't have to tell you kids or your parents that we have all been under an enormous amount of stress and pressure lately. What with the election and the pandemic. Well, as an old friend of mine once said to me, she said, "Andy, I tell you, I can't take it anymore. I'm down to my last noive." Well, I think we're all down to our last noive. So, what can we do? Where can we go to find some comfort? Well, one thing I can do is I can make myself another $1.25 by mentioning the big G word, cha-ching. You know, the people, do you remember last spring when we talked about those poems or psalms, 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 that are stuck right in the middle of the Bible. You know, the people of the Bible, they lived in a time no less worrisome than our own time, but they had the added bonus of knowing that at any moment, an opposing tribe could come sweeping through their village, swinging swords and taking them all prisoners. Still, those old psalmists were constantly encouraging their people to find comfort in God. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Of whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27. I love the Lord because the Lord has heard my voice and my cry for mercy. Because God listened to me, I will call on her all the days of my life. That's Psalm 116. As children of faith, one thing we can do is just what our spiritual ancestors did thousands of years ago, and that is look to the hills. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from God who made heaven and earth. That's Psalm 121. So what else can we do to find a little comfort? You know, if you've ever watched the Judson church services on Sundays online after Sunday school, perhaps with your parents, then no doubt you've heard Micah quote a man by the name of Mr. Rogers. Who was Mr. Rogers? Fred Rogers was a beloved host of a very, very popular children's television program called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Micah is always quoting Mr. Rogers, and I just happen to have the particular quote Micah uses on this poster over here. And it says like this, it goes like this. When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. Mr. Rogers says, to this day, especially in times of disaster, I always remember my mother's words and am comforted by realizing that there are so many helpers, so many caring people in the world. Who are the helpers in your life? Are they your parents, your teachers, perhaps your friends? Look to them for comfort and guidance and inspiration. Look for the helpers. And finally, one last thing we can do. We can become helpers ourselves. I want to show you another poster. This one, a quote attributed to Mohandas Gandhi. Let me put it up for you. This is going to take just a minute. So this is a quote attributed to Mohandas Gandhi. Now, for those boys and girls in my class, you might remember we had a lesson on Gandhi this past, was it February or March before the pandemic hit? Gandhi was a teacher of nonviolent resistance, and he led the people of India to their independence from British rule. This quote goes like this: "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." Let me say that again. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Now, even though Gandhi didn't use those exact words, the sentiment is still true. We don't have to wait on the world to change. We can be the change that the world needs. Now, the problems of the world are huge. COVID-19, climate change, racism. How do you get all that Trump orange-colored makeup off the furniture in the White House? These problems are much too big for us to solve overnight. So, why don't we start with something small? Look around. Who do you see who could use your help? You'd be surprised just how much comfort can be found in something as simple as a hug or volunteering to help someone do something that needs to be done, or even reading a story. Perhaps there's a little comfort in something as silly as reading a story about a farting dog. You have the power to comfort others. You can be the change that the world is looking for right now. Well, kids, are you familiar with the expression breaking news? When news is just happening at that moment and a newscaster on the radio or the television might just be letting you know what's going on. They might say, we have this breaking news, or this story is just breaking. It's news that is just happening. Today's story is about a little girl and the effects that some breaking news has on her family and her community. It's actually called The Breaking News, and it's written and illustrated by Sarah Lynn Rule. I invite you to pay attention to their facial expressions. There's not a lot of text in this story. I remember when we heard the bad news. And if you can see on the television over there, it says breaking news. See how their expressions changed. Suddenly, Mom is glued to the television. Dad can't stop checking his phone. They whisper, and I pretend not to hear. It is more than a little scary. Mom forgets to tuck me in. Dad is too tired for bedtime stories. It seems like everyone else feels it too. At school, my teacher says to look for the helpers. Even when the news is bad, you can still find good people trying to make things better in big and small ways. I want to help in a big way. I decide to put on the funniest show ever to make everyone laugh again. But the grown-ups don't feel like laughing. I tell them about the force fields I'll invent to keep us all safe, but their smiles are tiny and sad. I try to be on my best behavior all the time, to be so good, but they hardly even notice. I think maybe there is nothing I can do to help in a big way. I feel small. So maybe I can try to do just one small thing. It looks like she's decided to water the plants. And maybe another, and another, and one more. Small things don't solve everything. The bad news is still there after all. But then again, so are we. And you can see that when she started watering those plants, that small thing turned into a pretty good-sized thing. And the neighborhood has turned a little brighter. The breaking news. Well, kids, here we are. It's November 8th by my count, which means we've still probably got about 5 weeks or so before we have to perform this song, before I'll be asking for your videos of you performing this song. And by the way, parents, I think, not that this is enough heads-up notice for you, why don't we all do our little videos wearing those Christmas hats that we usually wear, whatever kind of Christmas hat you want to put on. But for now, let's practice. Christmas time is here. If you have your music, I will hold up the picture lyrics for you, and we'll just go through all the way through this time, all right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, fun for all that children call their favorite time of year. Snowflakes in the air, carols everywhere, olden times and ancient rhymes of love and dreams to share. Sleigh bells in the air, beauty everywhere. Yuletide by the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here, we'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year. Sleigh bells in the air, beauty everywhere. Oh, goodness, I was doing so well. Sorry. Yuletide by the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here, we'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year. Thank you so much. Well, we've done it again, boys and girls. We've somehow managed to get through another episode of Virtual Judson Sunday School, which, let me say, was no easy task, what with Walter the farting dog hanging out with us today. I want to, as always, thank Andre and Michelle, who's on the sound today, for all of their help, even if they did mess with my marker board. And I want to thank you for being with me today as well. Until next time, I hope you have a great week. Stay safe. Keep a place for Judson in your heart. And I'll see you next time on Virtual Judson Sunday School. Hey, Walter, how did you get out of Micah's office? Isn't he cute? He really is a cute little dog, isn't he? Oh, Walter. Oh.